everyone, my name is Mirna, and on behalf of the Mindalia TV team, we want to welcome you to Mindalia live streaming, where thousands of people around the world gather to see the lectures and interviews organized by Mindalia TV. Today with us, Angel Rebo, whom is a CEO consultant, TVO host, international public speaker, and president of the Wisdom for Kids Foundation, is bringing us the wonderful Elisa Sweigart. Elisa is a certified yoga practitioner. She was trained in the Lyengar style, which focuses on breath and alignment, as well as in Kundalini modality. Among other things, Elisa has also a master's degree from the University of Santa Monica in spiritual psychology. Elisa currently applies yoga as a therapy and has worked with cancer patients in hospitals as well as privately with people who experience a variety of challenges. Before going with them, we want to remind you that Mindalia TV is a nonprofit organization. Our only mission is to share information that can help raise the level of consciousness around the world, and you can help us. How? Subscribing to our channel, leaving us a positive comment down below, liking this video, and sharing this also with someone that you know that can benefit from the content that we are sharing today. Also, while we are live streaming, we have the active chat. It's an excellent tool for you to interact with us. We just please ask you to remember the format, the word question, the actual question that you have, but the word question, please just remember to put it in caps so we know it is a question, not just a comment. Last but not least, the great news about Mindalia TV. We broadcast every weekday in Spanish, Portuguese, and English. Mindalia Televisión, Mindalia Televisao, and Mindalia TV. So if you know the languages, you are more than welcome to visit us in our different platforms. If you want to collaborate with Mindalia also, you're going to find a link in our website that says collaborate with Mindalia. This is going to take you to a link that will show you how to fill out a form. And then you can be just like Elisa, sharing information with us. Without further delay, I am going to be leaving you with Angel and Elisa. Guys, you are welcome today, and the screen is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mirna, for your wonderful introduction, and thank you, Elisa, for being with us today.
Thank you.
After such impressive introduction by Mirna, Elisa, I would like to ask you, what makes you, inside of you, what makes you help so many people every day?
I love the work that I do. I believe in it. I first learned about yoga about 20 years ago or so. And from the very first class I ever took, I understood that there was a huge potential for therapy in this modality. And from that point forward, I just worked toward learning as much as I could and working toward becoming a yoga therapist. And I love it. I love interacting with people. I love hearing how they feel better and how the practice helps people to feel better, to move better, to live better, to understand themselves better. It's all about self-knowledge.
According to your experience, what do you think is the main reason why our bodies, our physical bodies, need so much therapy?
We're sedentary lifestyle these days, I think historically through time, we've always moved, whether we were agricultural society, we moved, whether we were nomads or whatever throughout history. I think movement has been a big part of everyday life, and we just don't do that anymore. And moving is super important. It moves the energy. You look at a dog when they start to bark at somebody, right? And they get really upset. And when they calm down, the first thing they do is shake. They're shaking it off. They know that, moving is important to get that energy off, that energy. And I think we've forgotten a lot about what it means to move and be moving creatures. And so I think we're needing to bring that into our bodies again, bring back that awareness.
And what happens to our body when we stop moving, when we don't do what we are supposed to do as human beings, right? Because we were designed like millions and millions of years ago, and our life was completely different, as you described, right? So what happens to the energy of our body when we stop moving as we should?
What I interpret and what I've kind of perceived is, and one of the things that I describe in classes with people is, you know, most of our body is water. You know, large percentage is water. And what happens when you get water and you make it stagnant, like in a barrel, it just stays there. It becomes diseased. You know, bugs get in it, and bacteria, and all sorts of diseases start to creep in. And I think our bodies are kind of like that. So we need to let it flow. We need to, you know, have a system where some of that energy flows out so that we can have new energy flow in. Just like in a barrel, maybe let the water out at the bottom so fresh water comes in at the top. It's kind of the same idea. It's kind of how I interpret our bodies.
It's fascinating. It's really fascinating because something that came to my mind is one time I went to one of those workshops and they were talking about actually jumping on a trampoline to move the energies in the body. And they were talking about the lymphatic system. I really am not an expert, but does that make any sense? I mean, I'm amazed about what you just said. Could you elaborate a little bit more, please?
Absolutely. And it's interesting you mentioned the lymphatic system because I have worked a lot with breast cancer patients. And the lymphatic system is one of these systems that does not have a pump. The blood has a pump, the heart, to move it through the body. The lymphatic system doesn't have that same benefit. We have to move the body in order for the lymph to move through the body, or it becomes stagnant and it can become diseased. So very, very important. Yes, that's a good mention that you make of that, because that is something that I mention to people, that we have to move, particularly arms, neck, you know, the spine, everything, to get the energy moving. Yeah.
You know, cancer, as you know, is you know it better than us. It's an epidemic today in the world. And I was extremely happy to hear that you've helped so many people with cancer. The first time you meet with someone with that condition, what do you find?
Well, I've worked with a company called the Simonton Cancer Center. Carl Simonton was an oncologist who worked a lot with the mental, emotional aspects of disease, particularly cancer. And one of the things he discovered is that with cancer patients, one of the first questions they ask is, what traumas or life changes, major life changes, have you had in the last couple of years? And inevitably, there was always something, whether it was a death in the family, whether it was moving, whether it was a new job, whatever, that hadn't been moved through in the body, that hadn't been processed, and inevitably creates what we see as cancer in the body. So there's a huge connection between traumas within 2 years of a cancer diagnosis and an actual diagnosis. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the first thing you find. So you try to find what was that trauma. So
Yeah.
what do you do next? So how can you help someone after you do that, in the first part of your meeting or conversation? Sure. What do you do then? How do you start handling that situation? Because I guess it's complex, right?
It can be very complex. And one of the first things that we look to is first bringing about an acceptance of a situation, that this is what happened. A lot of times people just don't want to accept what happened, particularly, a death of a family member or something like that, especially if it's very traumatic. It's hard for people to come to acceptance. And so coming to a place where we can accept it takes time, takes patience. But once we come to acceptance, really looking at it from then the other perspective, because everything has two sides. Everything, is like a coin. There's a heads and a tails. So for everything that we feel is traumatic and that is something that we wouldn't have wished to happen, there's always the other side, which is, what is the opportunity? So always looking then to see, what's the opportunity that this traumatic event is posing in my life? How can I use this event to grow, to learn something new about myself or the world around me, but mostly, it's about inner knowledge and inner exploration.
Excellent. And as a yoga therapist, so what's next? What do you start doing with that person?
Moving, yeah. Finding where in the body the resistances are. I use Lyengar as a great method to see, if people's hips are tight or their shoulders are tight, their lower backs are tight. Using Lyengar as a tool to kind of gently move through a person's body and see where resistances are and see where the openings are as well, because we can use those as points of reference to open up into. And then using a variety of methods, different meditations, affirmations, and some maybe Kundalini forms of yoga as well to move the energy through the body. So it's a combination of mental, emotional exploration, meditation, exploration as well. There's a lot of opportunities in different types of meditation. And then movement, to let the energy move through the body.
Does your therapy change depending on the kind of cancer, or it's the same?
Well, everybody's unique, so everybody's plan is different and unique to that person. But the process is the same. So, it may be a different yoga posture that I use on somebody, or maybe a different form of meditation that's somebody might be more open to than another. But the process is essentially the same, just different formula maybe for each individual.
And how do you know what posture is the best one for a particular type of cancer?
Again, I don't limit the postures to the cancers. I try to make it very holistic. Mm-hmm. So in terms of a particular Kundalini, let's say, which is specific, then I'll look at the person's chakras, the energy centers, to determine maybe a particular Kundalini practice. Or also it could be that they're having difficulty communicating certain things to somebody. So I look at the heart and the throat chakras. If somebody's having issues with money, I might look at the lower chakras, dealing with security, the root chakras. But overall, I always try to make it as holistic as possible, because no part of the body is independent from another. And it's all going to eventually affect another part of the body. So I do look at making it more holistic.
When you say you look at an energy center, a specific energy center or chakra, how do you do that? I mean, do you look at the person's body and you see something? How does that work, so people understand this a little bit better?
Again, it's let's say I ask them to do a forward bend. How tight are their hamstrings? How tight are their hips? How tight is their lower back? If it's very, very tight and they can't reach over very low, I know that there's resistances in the lower chakras. If their shoulders are very hunched over, and they maybe speak have difficulty speaking loudly maybe, or projecting, then I'll look at these chakras. A person's body really reflects their inner dynamics that are going on.
Okay. So then when you look at those energy centers, then what you basically identify the ones that are blocking the energy, and then you decide maybe other postures, or how does that work? So I'm just trying to picture, in their minds of the people that might go through some medical condition, what they're going to see, what they're going to be experiencing when they go and see someone, that is able to apply some sort of therapy similar to yours.
Again, I look and see where the blocks are based on fluidity of movement or resistance of movement, and go from there. Again, each person is an individual. So if the resistance is in the lower back, then we're going to do probably movements that are going to involve moving of the spine, right? Getting that spine movement, not just the lower back, but middle back and upper back too, because it's an entire system, right? And it affects the entire nervous system, which then affects the autonomic nervous system, which then affects the organs of the body. So we want to get that energy moving through the spine, particularly, which so much of yoga is really about movement of the spine, getting that movement.
If someone, for instance, is not used to exercise and they have a pretty tight body in general, so let's say they're not flexible, let's say that they're not flexible. If they're not flexible, if their body is not flexible, does that mean that they have a lot of blocks in their energy centers?
There's resistance there. There's resistance of energy. If they can't move, there's resistance of energy, or they would be able to move. And there's a Dr. Candace Pert, P-E-R-T, who did a lot of studies on the emotions in the cells and how we hold our emotions in the cells of the body. And if we move those parts of the body, we can release the energy in those cells and get movement going. And when we get that energy out, when we get those emotions out, the body opens up. It knows what to do if we get rid of the resistance. Yeah.
I'm remembering, one time I was going to the gym and I was joining a gym, and they asked me to perform several exercises, and that particular gym had many different sessions of different kinds of yoga. So what would you say? It's like if we are in doubt and we don't know what kind of yoga class to go to or therapies to go to, what would be your number one advice?
Number one advice, don't do anything that you are not comfortable doing. You ultimately have the choice and the decision over your body, not a yoga teacher. And any yoga teacher worth their weight in salt is going to understand that you're going to, measure yourself and kind of titrate your movements if you're not comfortable doing it. So first of all, don't do anything that you're not comfortable doing. And second of all, test out lots of teachers. Don't just go to one teacher and say, oh, well, I didn't like that. Yoga's not for me. There are as many different styles of teaching because everybody puts their own energy into their style of teaching. Even Lyengar teachers, they could be 10 Lyengar teachers, but all have a little bit different way of teaching, even though the basis of the teaching is the same. But what they teach and how they teach it could vary from teacher to teacher. So try various forms, different teachers, different studios, gyms, anywhere that you find a class, and see what works for you. See what speaks to you best.
Okay. Is there any sort of gray area between what a chiropractor does and what a yoga teacher does?
Oh, chiropractor. Well, it's funny because I go to a chiropractor. I love my chiropractor. They essentially is very similar. They're just cracking you, right? Rather than letting you be the one that moves and readjusts, they're doing it for you. So going to a chiropractor is more passive activity, where yoga is more interactive and self-directed activity. Yeah.
Do you feel after a chiropractic session, do you feel like your energy is flowing like easier or better in your body?
Yeah, a little bit, but yeah, definitely. I'll always feel, my neck is a little bit more loose, or my shoulders, I might be sore for a little bit, which is, natural. But definitely, just as well as any yoga class or yoga practice that I do, I always, I can subtly sense the difference. Absolutely.
Besides posture and movements, postures and movements, what else is part of, yoga therapy, Elisa?
So when I work with somebody, like I mentioned, Lyengar, which is breath and alignment based, but the Kundalini has not just asanas and breath, but also mudras, which are finger positions, chanting, which is expression, and drishti, which is focal point, either focusing on the third eye or focusing on a flame or some other image that may be personal to you. So it adds a lot of things. And then there's tons of different types of yoga. So Lyengar and Ashtanga and, yoga flow and Bikram, those are all a form of Hatha yoga. Kundalini yoga is considered a Raj yoga, which is a different thread. Raj means royal. So it was considered a royal yoga. There's Bhakti yoga. There's Karma yoga. Karma yoga is basically whenever you go and you serve others mindfully. You maybe serve food to the homeless. That can be considered karma yoga if you're doing it mindfully. Bhakti yoga is the yoga of knowledge. So the more you learn, then yes. So there's lots of different things. The purpose, really, the thing that kind of ties it all together is mindfulness and breath. So whenever you're doing something mindfully and you're mindful of the breath while you're doing whatever task, and get rid of whatever else might be interfering or distracting you, that is considered yoga.
Okay, so that means that I can basically be doing anything, and if I'm focusing on my breath while I'm looking at you now, I could actually be doing yoga.
Yeah, because I consider when I'm mindfully washing dishes, I'm paying attention to the dishes, not thinking about what I'm going to do tomorrow. And I'm feeling the warmth of the water, and I'm feeling the soapiness, and I'm feeling the dishes, and I'm noticing my breath and breathing deeply. I also do it when I cook. I love to do it when I cook because guess what? The food tastes better when I'm mindfully cooking and really paying attention to what I'm doing and my breath. Yeah, the food comes out better.
Is there a difference in the energy of your body when you are being mindful about what you do and when you are not?
Absolutely.
There is?
Everything slows down. Everything slows down. I'm not moving as quickly. Everything is slower. I can feel the energy in the body. I feel calmer. I'm generally more satisfied and peaceful inside. So definitely, absolutely, I feel a difference.
According to your experience in all those years, what is that thing that the people, because obviously you've helped a ton of people with yoga, so what would you say is the number one thing that people are looking for when they go and look for you or they find you?
To feel better. To feel better than they are feeling in the moment. If they're experiencing some illness, health is the number one thing that makes us happy, right? If we don't feel good, if we don't feel healthy, everything else kind of gets foggier and isn't as much fun. So we all are looking to feel good. I think everybody wants to feel better when they come and they're seeking something, some relief from how they've been feeling.
Wonderful. Let's talk, or let's tell the audience of Mindalia TV where they can find you before we go to the questions.
Sure.
So please be so kind to share with us, which places we can find you online.
Sure. I'll mention too. My website is urbanyogini.net. urbanyogini.net. And then my Instagram is my spiritual name, which is Raminder Preet, RAMINDERPREET.core, and that's KAUR. You can find me both those places.
Awesome. Let's go to the questions then. Thank you. Okay, so first question, can you recommend an exercise for people to spend 8 hours sitting in an office?
Anybody who's spending 8 hours in an office, I recommend every hour and a half, 2 hours, get up. Get up, walk around, stretch, move your arms, fold over in forward bending pose to get, open up the lower back, stretch up, just twisting, anything that feels good. Start to listen to your body. Pay attention to what your body wants. Where are you tight? What's speaking to you in those moments? And stretch those places and use the breath to do it. That's the key. Not just stretching, but breathing deeply while you're stretching. Breathing in, and then on your breath out, relax those muscles, relax those bones, relax those tendons. Just really feel that. Yeah. Move. Every hour and a half, 2 hours, get up and move.
Excellent. Thank you. Next question. Can yoga make our sex life better?
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. There's lots of research that's showing that this is absolutely the case. And there, in Kundalini specifically, there are postures to stimulate the sex nerves in the body through the legs and in the lower hips. Yes, absolutely. I would recommend anybody who's having any issues in that area to move and stretch and get that energy going.
Excellent. Next question. What happens when someone opens their third eye? Maybe we should explain people what the third eye is first, if you don't mind.
Yes, the third eye is the space right in here, internally when we close our eyes and we focus there. The third eye. And the third eye, what it actually is the space with which the pituitary gland. So when we focus on the pituitary gland, what we're actually doing is we are producing the hormones that allow for greater intuition and connect us to ourselves in a very deep way. So that is a very real thing, because we're accessing that gland and stimulating those hormones, which do allow us to see life a little bit differently from a different perspective. Yeah.
Okay. Why is it called the third eye? Do you know?
I think it's just something that historically the yogis identified, because it's our intuition that we can see things that are not seen. That's essentially intuition, right? We can see that which is not seen. We can interpret life in a different way. So I think the yogis identified that as just another way of seeing the world. Yeah.
Excellent. Another question about the third eye. Is it like a one-in-a-lifetime event, like opening the third eye? Is it a one-in-a-lifetime event?
No, I think what they might be confusing is the seventh, the crown chakra. The crown chakra can be a once-in-a-lifetime type thing. It's the Kundalini awakening, when from the bottom of the spine we stimulate and open up all the chakras, and then the seventh chakra can have a very powerful event. With regards to the third eye, I don't see it that way. I think it's something that we constantly work on, and with practice we can deepen our awareness. I don't know that I've ever heard someone saying that's necessarily that kind of experience in the way the Kundalini rising is, which is the seventh chakra.
Okay. Excellent. So next question. What is the pineal gland, and what is the relationship between the pineal gland and the third chakra? Excuse me, the third eye, not the third chakra.
The third eye.
Yeah.
Yes, again, so the pineal and all those glands that are in the brain, right? We have the pineal and the pituitary. So yes, we're stimulating those when we meditate. And so we produce, the hormones balance out, and we can tend to have more of a balanced outlook on life. It balances us, yeah.
Okay, excellent. Next one. Can you recommend a mantra for mindfulness?
A mantra for mindfulness. I think anytime you meditate, you're going to, you're looking toward mindfulness. You're to be more mindful. So I don't know that there's necessarily any one particular mantra. And when it comes to mantras, it's also a very personal thing. So listen and hear what your inner dialogue is. What are the things that you are saying to yourself? And then listen and hear a variety of mantras and see what resonates. There's certain mantras that I hear and it's like, oh, I love that mantra. That's so beautiful. I want to hear it again and again and again and again. That's what I would recommend, because that's the kind of fervor and passion that you want to have. You don't want somebody telling you need to listen to this and you need to do that. And it's like you do it. It's like, you know, it's like bad medicine. It's like nobody wants to do that. It's like, and then it becomes, you know, not as much fun. You want to have fun. You want to enjoy what you're doing, and you want to be excited about doing it. Because that's going to be what gets you back on the mat, back to meditating, is getting that connection. So it's very personal. I would, again, explore different mantras and see what resonates for you.
Excellent. Next question. Is there any food that we eat that could be harming the health of our pineal gland?
You know, I think that just goes with everything. You know, what's good food, what's healthy food, what's not. Because we're not just our pineal gland. We're not just, you know, one gland. We're a whole system. And so, you know, we want to look at the whole body and what makes you feel good when you eat it, and what is good for you. And we know that things like sugar and, you know, gluten and things like that, we know that those are bad for us. We know that they're not good for our bodies. So again, just a holistic perspective, and just eat lots of what's good for you, and you know, balance out the whole system.
Excellent. Next question, I feel tired and drained. What would you advise me to do?
Breathing.
Breathing.
Lots of breathing. Breathing exercises. Do some breathing. Long, deep breaths are great practice to do to get you just present and mindful. There's a particular breath called breath of fire that if you do for 3 minutes in the middle of the afternoon, kind of at that 2-3 o'clock time when everybody's going to Starbucks or whatever, and people's energy are starting to kind of lull, it's a great time to do breath of fire. And breath of fire, if you go to YouTube, you can find instructional videos, and it takes practice. You know, some people it takes 3, 4, 5 times to learn. It's not necessarily easy, but for some people it is easy. And it's basically just like a very rapid belly breath. And it gets that energy moving from the bottom up and flowing energy. And it really helps to kind of get out of that feeling. Yeah, definitely. And moving. Get to yoga.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you. Next question. How can you open, I think they heard you, how can you open the 7th chakra?
Again, it's not something I think that we mandate. It's something that with practice, doing your yoga practice, just being mindful of it, eventually you'll get there. And you'll know because you'll feel not everybody has this huge explosion of it, but you start to feel better, and life starts to work out better, and you start to see things more clearly without so much reactivity and or negativity. We start to see things more neutrally. And that's when you kind of know that your chakras are kind of clear, open, and working well. If we have a lot of reactivity and there's a lot of juice on certain issues, there's work to do.
Excellent. Could you recommend a breathing exercise?
Just any breathing. I always recommend long, deep breathing. I do it every day. I do it with my practice in the morning. I do it throughout the day. I'll do long, deep breathing. If there's something that I don't particularly like to do, I'll start to do long, deep breathing because it helps me focus and be more mindful. even during mundane things throughout the day, I'll just start long, deep breathing. It's the best. It's simple. You don't have to remember anything, you know, any clues or formulas. It's always there with you. You'll never forget it. It's always with you. You don't have to pay anything for it. No membership. So the breath is the best. Just long, deep breathing.
Next question. Can yoga help with anxiety and depression?
Absolutely helps with anxiety and depression. There's a lot of research now backing that up. And so definitely recommend for anybody who's experiencing yoga and who's experiencing depression, anxiety, to start with breathing. If it's too much to do a full yoga class, that's okay. You don't have to do a full yoga class. Just start with the breathing. But definitely move, you know, go out for walks, get something so that oxygen is moving through the body and energy is moving through the body, because essentially anxiety and depression, you know, they're feelings that are stuck, and we want to get those moving. Yeah.
Excellent. Hold on a second. They're writing to me another question right now. Yes. Excellent. What would you recommend? That's the next question. What would you recommend that someone with is this? I can't. Sorry about that. I have an issue here with my computer. My apologies. Someone with autism. Excuse me. Someone with autism. Sometimes the questions are not. You know, people do not write the questions, so I can understand them. So, what would you recommend? What yoga practice would you recommend to someone that has autism? Thank you.
For somebody with autism, I would recommend seeking out a yoga therapist to work with them. I think that would be the best. There's maybe particular ways of working with autistic children or autistic adults that might be a little bit different. I haven't worked with a lot of autistic people, so I don't have a lot of experience in that realm. I would recommend finding people in your area that have. That might be a good way to go rather than just doing it on your own, simply because of the focus aspect. Maybe working with somebody that can help to focus and to direct, I think would be helpful. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, that was the last question, Elisa. What would you, I mean, you know, again, I would like you to remind everybody, you know, what's the easiest way to find you. So, you know, they definitely, when they want to reach out to you, they can do it easily.
Sure. My website is urbanyogini.net, and my Instagram is Raminderpreet, RAMINDERPREET .KAUR. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, Elisa, I mean, we are definitely fascinated by, you know, what you do and how you do it, and so many people that you have helped in this world. So, you know, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a blessing for so many people.
Thank you.
You know, this is your family, so you can be back here whenever you wish to. Again, thank you for doing so much, so many things in the world. Thank you very much. And again, this is Angel Reba with Mindalia TV. Thank you very much for being with us tonight, and see you soon. Goodbye.